We often believe our conscious mind, our ego, to be the complete and accurate representation of ourselves. This is a crucial misconception. The ego, while essential for navigating daily life, is a limited construct. It acts as a filter, selectively choosing what information we perceive and process. This inherent selectivity creates blind spots, areas of our being that remain hidden, even from ourselves. These hidden aspects are not necessarily negative. They are simply unconscious, existing beyond the grasp of our conscious awareness. Think of an iceberg. The ego is the tip visible above the water, while the vast, submerged portion represents the unconscious. To understand ourselves fully, we must explore this hidden landscape. Our ego, further, is subject to biases, both conscious and unconscious. We tend to favor information that confirms our pre-existing beliefs, a phenomenon known as confirmation bias. This self-serving bias protects our sense of self, but also distorts our perception of reality, preventing us from seeing our flaws and limitations. The ego, therefore, is not a reliable guide on the path towards true self-knowledge. It is a starting point, yes, but not the destination. To reach that destination, we must venture beyond the confines of our conscious mind into the shadowy realms of the unconscious, where our true selves reside, waiting to be integrated. Only through this process of integration, of confronting what we prefer to ignore, can we achieve wholeness and true self-knowledge. This, my friends, is the essence of Jungian shadow work, and it is a journey that will lead us ultimately to individuation. Having established the limitations of the ego, we now turn our attention to the heart of Jungian shadow work, the shadow self. This isn't some malevolent entity lurking within, waiting to consume us. Rather, it's a complex and multifaceted aspect of our unconscious, comprised of the repressed, disowned, and forgotten parts of our personality. These are the elements we find unacceptable, too painful, or simply too inconvenient to acknowledge consciously. Jung, drawing from his extensive clinical experience, posited that the shadow emerges from early childhood experiences. Aspects of ourselves deemed socially unacceptable or personally undesirable are suppressed, relegated to the unconscious. These repressed elements, however, don't simply vanish. They continue to exert a powerful influence on our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, often manifesting in subtle and unexpected ways. Think of it as a hidden reservoir of energy, both creative and destructive, depending on how we choose to engage with it. The shadow isn't solely comprised of negative traits. It also contains positive qualities we may have neglected or denied. Talents, passions, and aspects of our personality that we've deemed unsuitable or impractical might reside within the shadow, untapped and unrealized. Integrating these positive aspects can lead to a more complete and fulfilling life, enriching our conscious personality with newfound strengths and perspectives. Understanding the shadow is the first step towards its integration. This integration is not about eradicating the shadow, but about acknowledging, accepting, and ultimately integrating its contents into our conscious awareness. This process, though challenging, is crucial for personal growth and psychological wholeness. It allows us to develop a more nuanced and compassionate understanding of ourselves, fostering self-acceptance and paving the way for a more authentic and integrated life. The journey towards individuation, then, begins with confronting our shadow. Why do we repress parts of ourselves? The answer is multifaceted, stemming from a complex interplay of societal pressures, personal experiences, and the ego's inherent defense mechanisms. Society, with its often rigid expectations and norms, plays a significant role. From a young age, we're subtly, and sometimes not so subtly, conditioned to conform to certain ideals of behavior and personality. Traits deemed undesirable or unacceptable are often suppressed to maintain social acceptance and avoid rejection. This can lead to a significant disconnect between our true selves and a persona we present to the world. Personal trauma further contributes to the formation of the shadow. Painful experiences, particularly those from childhood, can be too overwhelming to process consciously. As a protective mechanism, the mind represses these memories and emotions, burying them deep within the unconscious. These repressed experiences, however, continue to influence our behavior and emotional responses, often manifesting as anxieties, phobias, or recurring patterns of self-sabotage. The shadow, in this sense, becomes a repository of unresolved trauma, hindering our ability to move forward and live authentically. The ego itself, in its attempt to maintain a sense of stability and order, employs various defense mechanisms to protect us from uncomfortable truths. These mechanisms, while initially helpful, can become maladaptive, leading to the repression of valuable aspects of our personality. Denial, projection, and rationalization are common examples. We may deny the existence of certain traits, project them onto others, or rationalize our behaviors to avoid confronting uncomfortable realities about ourselves. Understanding these mechanisms is crucial to unraveling the layers of repression that contribute to the formation of the shadow self. Only by acknowledging these underlying factors can we begin the delicate process of uncovering and integrating the repressed aspects within. Now that we understand the origins and nature of the shadow, let's explore how it manifests in our daily lives. Recognizing these manifestations is crucial for beginning the process of shadow work. One of the most common ways the shadow reveals itself is through projection. We unconsciously attribute our own unacceptable traits, thoughts, or feelings onto others. For example, someone who harbors suppressed anger might constantly perceive others as hostile or aggressive, even when there's no objective basis for this perception. This projection allows us to avoid confronting our own inner turmoil, shifting the blame and discomfort onto external sources. Another key indicator of shadow activity is self-sabotaging behavior. This can manifest in a variety of ways, from procrastination and impulsive decisions to self-destructive habits and relationship patterns. These behaviors, often inexplicable from a purely conscious perspective, are frequently rooted in unconscious conflicts and unresolved issues residing within the shadow. They represent an attempt to undermine our own success or happiness, stemming from a deep-seated fear of success or belief in our own unworthiness. Disproportionate emotional reactions also signal the presence of the shadow. Overreacting to seemingly minor events or experiencing intense emotional responses that seem out of proportion to the situation are often indicative of underlying unconscious conflicts surfacing into consciousness. These reactions can manifest as sudden outbursts of anger, uncontrollable sadness, or overwhelming anxiety. These intense emotional responses are often triggered by situations that evoke repressed memories, feelings, or beliefs linked to the shadow self. By paying close attention to these patterns, projections, self-sabotage, and disproportionate emotional reactions, we can begin to identify the areas where the shadow is most active, paving the way for conscious engagement and integration. The path to self-knowledge is often illuminated by recognizing these shadow manifestations. Let us now turn to explore the practical techniques which will help us to engage with and integrate these aspects of ourselves. Projection, a cornerstone of shadow work, is a powerful yet often subtle mechanism. It's the unconscious process of attributing our own unacceptable or unacknowledged qualities, thoughts, and feelings onto others. We essentially externalize our inner conflicts, projecting them onto individuals or groups, creating a distorted perception of reality. This isn't a conscious act of deception. It's an unconscious defense mechanism designed to protect the ego from confronting uncomfortable truths about the self. Consider this. A person struggling with hidden anger might perceive everyone around them as constantly irritable and aggressive. They might interpret neutral comments as personal attacks and become easily offended, failing to recognize their own contribution to the conflict. The anger, instead of being acknowledged and processed internally, is projected outward, creating conflict and misunderstanding in their relationships. Similarly, someone grappling with feelings of inadequacy might project their insecurity onto others, perceiving them as constantly judging or criticizing. They might become overly sensitive to perceived slights, constantly seeking reassurance, while failing to address their underlying feelings of self-doubt. This projection serves to deflect attention away from their own insecurities, reinforcing their negative self-image. Understanding projection is key to disentangling these distorted perceptions. By recognizing that our negative judgments of others might be reflections of our own unacknowledged shadow aspects, we can begin to reclaim our own inner world. This self-awareness is a crucial first step in integrating these projected qualities, leading to greater self-acceptance and healthier relationships. The next step, then, is to learn the techniques that facilitate this crucial process of integration. Self-sabotage, a common human experience, often operates on an unconscious level, driven by the dynamics of the shadow self. We might find ourselves inexplicably derailing our own progress, undermining our efforts, and thwarting our own ambitions. These actions, seemingly illogical from a conscious perspective, often stem from deep-seated fears and unresolved conflicts residing within the unconscious. Consider the individual who consistently procrastinates on important tasks, despite a strong desire for success. This procrastination might be rooted in a fear of failure, a fear so profound that it unconsciously drives the individual to avoid the very thing they desire. The shadow, in this case, is subtly undermining their conscious goals, driven by a hidden belief in their own inadequacy. The act of procrastination becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, confirming the unconscious fear and reinforcing the cycle of self-sabotage. Another example is the individual who repeatedly enters into unhealthy relationships, despite a yearning for genuine connection. This pattern might be driven by unconscious desires to recreate past traumas or to unconsciously fulfill a need for validation within a familiar, albeit destructive, dynamic. The shadow, in this context, manifests as a compulsion to repeat the past, hindering the possibility of healthy relationships and personal growth. Similarly, self-destructive behaviors such as substance abuse or reckless actions can be understood as attempts to numb or escape from painful emotions and unresolved inner conflicts. These behaviors provide temporary relief, but ultimately perpetuate a cycle of self-destruction, preventing genuine healing and personal fulfillment. Recognizing these patterns of self-sabotage is crucial. By exploring the underlying fears and desires that drive these behaviors, we can begin to unravel the shadow's influence, opening the door to conscious choices and a more fulfilling life. Understanding the connection between self-sabotage and the shadow allows us to move from passive self-destruction to active self-mastery. Intense emotional reactions, disproportionate to the triggering event, often serve as potent clues to the presence of shadow material. These reactions, seemingly out of proportion to the situation, are not random. They are signals from the unconscious, indicating the activation of unresolved issues and repressed emotions. Understanding these reactions is crucial for navigating the path towards self-knowledge. Consider a seemingly minor criticism that evokes an overwhelming sense of anger or defensiveness. This disproportionate response might indicate an underlying vulnerability related to self-worth or a past experience of criticism that remains unprocessed. The intensity of the emotion points to a deeper, unconscious wound being triggered. Similarly, an unexpected surge of sadness or anxiety in response to a neutral event might suggest the surfacing of repressed grief or fear. The intensity of the emotional response suggests the activation of unconscious memories or beliefs that are linked to these emotions. The emotion is not simply a response to the present situation. It is a manifestation of deeper, unconscious dynamics. To interpret these reactions effectively, it's essential to observe the nature of the emotion, its intensity, and the context in which it arises. What specific aspect of the situation triggered the intense response? What underlying beliefs or fears might be activated? Journaling can be a helpful tool to explore these connections, allowing you to trace the emotional response back to its deeper roots within the unconscious. By patiently exploring these emotional clues, we can begin to unravel the mysteries of the shadow and unveil its hidden messages. This process is not about suppressing or ignoring these intense emotions, but rather about understanding their origins and integrating their wisdom into our conscious awareness. Embarking on a journey of shadow work is a courageous act of self-discovery, a commitment to exploring the often uncomfortable depths of the unconscious mind. It's not a quick fix or a simple technique. It's a process of deep introspection and integration, requiring patience, self-compassion, and a willingness to confront aspects of the self that may have been hidden for years. The core of shadow work lies in acknowledging the existence of the shadow self, that part of ourselves we repressed or denied. This isn't about indulging in self-criticism or wallowing in negativity. It's about recognizing the totality of our being, embracing both the light and the dark within. It involves understanding the origins of these repressed aspects, acknowledging the reasons why they were pushed into the unconscious, and recognizing the role they play in shaping our present-day experiences. This process demands a significant degree of self-compassion. The shadow often contains painful memories, unprocessed trauma, and deeply ingrained beliefs that we may find difficult to face. Self-criticism only serves to reinforce the shadow's power, Self-acceptance, on the other hand, paves the way for integration and healing. It's a process of gently uncovering these hidden parts of ourselves, offering them understanding and acceptance rather than judgment and rejection. The goal is not to eliminate the shadow, but to integrate it, to bring these unconscious aspects into conscious awareness, allowing them to become part of the whole. This integration leads to a more complete and authentic understanding of the self, fostering a greater sense of wholeness and inner peace. Remember, the shadow is not an enemy to be conquered, but an integral part of ourselves that requires understanding and compassion. The journey toward wholeness involves embracing all aspects of our being, both light and dark. Integrating the shadow self is not a passive process. It requires active engagement and conscious effort. This integration unfolds in stages, each building upon the previous one, leading toward a more complete and balanced personality. The first step is recognition, identifying the shadow aspects that are operating within us. This involves paying close attention to our recurring thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, particularly those that feel uncomfortable or inconsistent with our self-image. Once we've identified these shadow aspects, the next step is acknowledgement. This is where we accept the existence of these qualities within ourselves without judgment or denial. This doesn't mean condoning harmful behaviors. It means acknowledging their presence as part of our overall being. It requires a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves, to see the shadow not as an enemy, but as an integral, albeit hidden, part of our personality. The final stage is integration. This involves consciously incorporating these shadow aspects into our conscious awareness and integrating them into our personality. This doesn't mean becoming consumed by these negative qualities. It means understanding their origins, accepting their existence, and learning to manage them in a healthy way. This often involves engaging in self-reflection, exploring the underlying causes of these shadow aspects, and developing healthier coping mechanisms. This is a gradual process, requiring patience, self-compassion, and a commitment to ongoing self-exploration. Through this process of recognition, acknowledgement, and integration, we move toward a more complete and authentic self, embracing the totality of our being. The path of shadow work is rarely a solitary one. While self-reflection is crucial, utilizing practical tools can significantly enhance the process. Journaling, for instance, provides a space to explore your inner world without judgment. Regularly writing about your emotions, dreams, and recurring thoughts can unveil patterns and insights that might otherwise remain hidden. Pay attention to recurring themes, symbols, and emotions that emerge. These often point towards underlying shadow aspects that need attention. Dream analysis offers another powerful tool. Dreams, often considered messages from the unconscious, provide a rich landscape for encountering shadow material. Exploring the symbolism and imagery within your dreams can reveal hidden desires, fears, and unresolved conflicts. Consider keeping a dream journal and reflecting on recurring symbols and emotions present within them. Active imagination, a technique developed by Jung himself, involves engaging in dialogue with the figures and symbols that appear in your dreams or fantasies. This technique allows you to directly interact with your shadow self, fostering a greater understanding and eventual integration. This interaction can be done through writing, visualization, or even drawing. While self-directed exploration is valuable, seeking guidance from a trained therapist or mentor specializing in Jungian psychology can be immensely beneficial. A therapist can provide a safe and supportive space to explore your shadow material, offering insights and guidance as you navigate this complex process. Their expertise can help you interpret your experiences, manage challenging emotions, and develop effective strategies for integration. The support of a skilled professional can significantly enhance the efficacy and safety of your shadow work journey. Remember, this journey is best approached with patience, self-compassion, and a willingness to embrace the unknown. The rewards of engaging in shadow work are profound and transformative, extending far beyond a simple increase in self-awareness. As you integrate previously repressed aspects of yourself, you'll experience a heightened sense of authenticity, a deeper connection to your true self, free from the constraints of the persona you presented to the world. This increased self-acceptance fosters a more genuine and fulfilling life, allowing you to express yourself more freely and authentically in all areas of your life. Improved relationships are another significant benefit. By integrating your shadow, you'll become more aware of your own projections and tendencies to react defensively, This increased self-awareness allows for more compassionate and understanding interactions with others, fostering healthier and more meaningful connections. You'll find yourself less prone to projecting your own unresolved issues onto others, leading to more balanced and fulfilling relationships. The journey of shadow work also cultivates enhanced emotional regulation. By understanding the origins of your emotional responses, you'll gain greater control over your reactions, reducing the impact of triggers and fostering greater emotional stability. This increased emotional intelligence allows you to navigate challenging situations with greater grace and resilience. Ultimately, the integration of the shadow leads to a profound sense of wholeness, a feeling of being complete and integrated, accepting all aspects of yourself, both light and dark. This sense of wholeness is the ultimate reward of the journey, a state of being characterized by inner peace and a deep sense of self-acceptance. The ultimate aim of shadow work is not simply to identify and address our negative traits, but to achieve a state of wholeness and authenticity. Wholeness, in a Jungian context, signifies the integration of all aspects of the self, the conscious and the unconscious, the light and the shadow, into a unified and coherent personality. It's about embracing the totality of your being, accepting both the positive and negative qualities that constitute your unique individuality. This acceptance doesn't imply condoning harmful behaviors. Rather, it involves understanding their origins and developing healthier ways of relating to them. Authenticity, closely intertwined with wholeness, refers to living in accordance with your true self, unburdened by the need to conform to societal expectations or maintain a false persona. It's about expressing yourself freely and honestly, without fear of judgment or rejection. This genuine self-expression flows naturally from the integration of the shadow, as you're no longer constrained by the need to suppress or deny parts of yourself. The journey toward wholeness and authenticity is intrinsically linked to increased self-acceptance. As you confront and integrate your shadow, you develop a more compassionate and understanding relationship with yourself. This self-acceptance forms a bedrock of improved mental health, reducing anxiety, depression, and feelings of self-doubt. It empowers you to live a more fulfilling life, guided by your values and aligned with your true self, fostering a deeper sense of purpose and meaning. Embracing the entirety of your being, both light and shadow, is a path toward a richer, more authentic, and ultimately more fulfilling existence. The culmination of shadow work, the ultimate goal of this introspective journey, is individuation. This is not merely self-improvement. It's a profound transformation, a process of becoming a whole, integrated person. It's about moving beyond the limitations of the ego, that fragmented sense of self, and embracing the totality of your being, conscious and unconscious, light and shadow. Individuation is a journey toward becoming a fully realized, authentic self, living in harmony with your inner world. This process is not a destination, but a lifelong journey of self-discovery, a continuous unfolding of the self. It requires courage, self-compassion, and a willingness to confront the uncomfortable aspects of your personality. Through this process, you gain a deeper understanding of your motivations, your patterns of behavior, and the forces that shape your life. You develop a more nuanced and compassionate understanding of yourself and others. The path to individuation is unique to each individual, a deeply personal journey of self-discovery. There is no one-size-fits-all approach. The process unfolds organically, revealing itself through self-reflection, dreams, and life experiences. Embrace the challenges, celebrate the triumphs, and remember that the journey itself is as valuable as the destination. The willingness to engage in this profound work is a testament to your courage and your commitment to living a life of authenticity and purpose. Embrace the journey and discover profound richness that lies within the depths of your being. The path toward wholeness is a path toward a more fulfilling and meaningful existence.